Hi Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. I have another fun fold card today to show you that again showcases designer series paper because you know one of my goals this year was to make a dent in my stash. So this one is called the Diagonal Joy fold. And what it is you're just taking a half a sheet of cardstock. We're going to cut off one part of it diagonally, and then we just have a little mini card that sits on top of it, and then it just kind of overlaps like that. So really fun and easy. And again, once you start making these, you're going to have lots of pieces left over, so you can mix and match whether you layer that triangle with cardstock or you do it with designer series paper. So I'm going to show you kind of both ways today because like I said, I've been making quite a few of these, so I've got lots of scraps left over. So the first couple here, I'm just going to show you these I made last night. I was kind of trying to go through stamp sets that I haven't used in a while. And this one is Jar of Flowers, which has been around for quite some time, but I decided to make one being a Christmas card. And then this one I'm using the Cottage Gingham designer series paper. And I made this one to be a sympathy card with it. I added a little bit of Wink of Stella on there. And then here's the Christmas one, so I used some metallic paper for the jar, and then we're using the Painted Christmas designer series paper and that quadrifoil embossing folder. So there I did my cardstock that when you cut this off, I'm taking that other triangle then and placing it down here instead of using pattern paper. So that's another old one. An old set, I should say, that's still current. And then this one again, Nuts About Squirrels. This has been around for a little bit. This is one of my first ones I made. And again, that uses that Cottage Gingham paper. And he's got his little nut that he's holding on to. And I added a little bit of glaze to it just to kind of make it shiny. And then you know me, I love my gnomes and my wobbles. So we're going to be doing something like this today, but we're using some different paper. So again, this is the Gnome Suite. This is the Gnome Storybook Gnome paper. And then again, I did that Whimsical Woodland folder, which we're going to use today. And I did the triangle cardstock for my layering. And then here's one I did a while ago. I had it on my Facebook page. This is the Christmas Barn. This one was really futzy, but I did add a little bit of the kind of like embossing glaze, or not embossing glaze, what is it? The embossing paste to give it a little bit of texture to it. So that took a little bit of time to dry, but so here's another one using that Cottage Gingham paper. And then these I kind of made this morning, and we're going to be using something similar to this one today with the Majestic Mountains dies, and then I'm showcasing that new Snowflake specialty paper as well as the Painted Christmas. So we'll do a version of this one today, and then another one. This is the Beauty of Friendship, which has been around for a little bit, but I added lots of rhinestones, so someone special will get this card. And then again, there's that embossing paste that I just kind of smeared on there, and then I just let it dry so it looks like snow. So then there's another one, and then again, you got all these extra pieces, so sometimes I like to use the opposite triangle then and adhere that on the inside just to use up your paper. And then here's another, these dies are retired, but I was still, a lot of people who have the stamp set have the dies, so I just made this one up just to have another kind of a all-around kind of thank you card just to have on hand. So we are going to get started. So what you're going to need for supplies are your card base. Oh, sorry, my camera's getting a little, there we go. It's just a half a sheet of cardstock, which is just cut at 5.5 by 8.5. So it's just your full sheet and you're just cutting it in half. And then we're just going to score that at 4.25. So just your standard, you know, nothing fancy. Then for the little mini card that sits on top, this is 3 by 8. And this can be whatever color you want. I just kind of look through your papers and see how you want to coordinate. It can be the same color as this one if you want. I like to kind of make it a different color, but you can totally do the same color as your base. So whatever you want to do. So 3 by 8, and that's going to be scored at 4. your pattern paper, so the inside piece that goes on the inside of the card, that one is going to be your standard layer 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, so that's the piece that goes on the inside. The one that is going to be on the outside that we cut diagonally to make a triangle, this one, ideally, it works better if you make this a little bit smaller, so 3 7/8 by 5. And then that way you get a little bit more of a border of that cardstock showing. So that's the one that's on the front, so that's 3 7/8 by 5, and then we're just going to cut this diagonally. That gets layered, and then you can take the opposite piece and put it on the inside if you want on that. And then for your mini card, so whatever you want on the front, so this is that specialty vellum, that's what I'm going to be using. So the specialty vellum, it has one of it has kind of like this fuzzy, and then the other one's kind of iridescent. So I'm going to use the iridescent one today. So this piece, and again, this can just be cardstock. It doesn't have to be the vellum, because this is just is what is layered on top of that mini card. This is 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then whatever you want on the inside of your mini card, that can be whatever color. I tend to do neutral. Sometimes I do a light colored, because this is what you'll stamp your greeting on. Again, that's the same. It's same size as the outside, 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and that's just for the inside of your layer. Okay, so let's go ahead, and you want to get your paper trimmer. So we're going to cut this, we're going to score this, and we're going to score and cut this one. All right, so I got to make room on my desk. Okay. So again, this was at 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. I'm just going to score it in half at 4 1/4. So we'll just score at 4 1/4. And then I like just to fold it in half right away, so that I've got my right, my scoring, so my paper is going to be laying correctly. Now we're going to cut the diagonal. So now this is like, I'm opening the card this way, so we're going to turn it around. So this is the front of my card. We're going to cut from this top of this score line down to your corner. Okay, so I'm laying this in my paper trimmer. Move this over just a little bit so you can kind of see. You just have to kind of position your paper. So this is where my paper trimmer, sorry, maybe we need to zoom out. This is where my cutting thing is. So I want to make sure that corner is in there, and then I'm lining up my other corner so that it's being cut. So we're cutting all of this triangle off. So I just want to make sure I'm in position, and then we'll just cut that diagonally. Okay, so now this becomes your card front. Then this piece that you just cut off, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, so that's the one, so see how it's the exact same size. I want to trim this, so I'm actually going to take off on this, the bottom of the triangle. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm just going to cut. So right now this is measuring at 5 1/2. I'm going to cut, I'm going to go down, I'm going to do 5. So I'm just going to make this now be a 5, so that now this layers a little bit better so you can kind of see it. Okay, so this for the card we're going to do, I'm going to use this triangle on my next one, so I'm just going to set it aside for now, but I just wanted to show you that's how, if you wanted to do it right now and then do your pattern paper, you can do that. But I'm going to use this on my next one, so I'm just going to set it aside. So that's our card base. Okay, now the pattern paper, remember this is the one that was 3 7/8 by 5 because now I want this to be on my outside. So again, we're going to cut diagonally, and you want to pay attention that if you want this to sit on the left-hand side, you need to cut going this way. So you want to put that in your paper trimmer so that your triangle shape is the correct size. So again, corner to corner. This is leftover. Save it for, you know, something, whether the inside of the card to decorate or for another card, either one. Okay, so now that's layered on there. Then my other piece, oh, here, I've already got it, so that's already set aside. I just want to make sure I've got all my pieces. Now our card, the mini card is what I call it. This was the 3 by 8. We're going to score right at 4. So we'll score right at 4. And then this just gets folded in half. And then that is it for now on your cutting and scoring. Okay, so now we'll bring our pieces back. So again, this was my triangle that I cut from that 3 7/8 by 5. Here's my mini card. And then my other designer series paper was 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going on the inside. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're just gonna adhere our inside pieces first. So on this one, I'm just using that one sheet of pattern paper because I'm using both, you know, I'm focusing, this was my front, this is going to be my inside, so I'm using both patterns from this paper just to showcase both sides, which is nice. Okay, so that's adhered on the inside. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and do my triangle. And since this was trimmed, now you're going to have that nice border going around your card. I got a little too much glue up here, so I'm just going to use my adhesive remover just to pull off some of that excess glue. When you're working with liquid glue, you always want to have a damp, I have always my little Norwex travel size Enviro cloth handy by my desk. It's always never far. Okay, so now there's your diagonal fold. Then we're going to add our little mini card. And so when I do the mini card, I like to make sure that it's centered. So this little corner is kind of lined up with this edge, and then this little corner is lined up with this edge. So I'm just going to move it up just a little bit. And then you want to make sure that it, you know, it opens fine. Okay, so that looks good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some temporary, it's like a low tack tape. And the reason I'm doing this is just so that it's, when I'm gluing the back side, this isn't moving on me. So this is just some low tack tape just to hold it in place. You could use a Post-it note too. I'm now going to put glue on the back of this. And then I'm just going to close this. Grab my bone folder just to adhere that in place. And now this can just come off. Now my card is all glued and ready to go. Okay, so then for the vellum, So with vellum, you don't want to see the adhesive when you're doing it. So what I'm going to do is, and I thought I had it, oh, I do have one. I'm just taking a sponge and I'm putting glue on my sponge. And then I am just going to dab onto the back of the vellum. And then that way you won't see any of the glue strips at all, and it dries clear. So just grab a little sponge and then your liquid glue, and that works really good for adhering vellum, so you don't see the glue marks or the tape marks. Okay, then our inside, again, that was 2 3/4 by 3 3/4, and this again is just a neutral colored cardstock. It can be a light colored, whatever, just makes it easier if you're going to be stamping your greeting and writing your sentiments on the inside of your card. Okay, so there's that. Then for my card, I already pre-cut, these are from the Majestic Mountain dies, so you get the 2 trees. So I just did 1 tree in Evening Evergreen and another tree in Garden Green. And if you notice, you could, if you wanted to, poke all these little holes out, but I kind of like keeping it with some of the holes still in there, just so that the tree looks fuller and not so sickly and spiny looking. So we're going to, let's see here, I think I want to have, and then I die cut my this is the smallest circle from the layering circles, and this is the In Color Glimmer paper. It's kind of like an ombre, so it kind of starts off with light to dark, and it has all the new in color. So this one it's actually the Tahitian Tide, but it has such a variation from the light to that turquoise that I just used the light part for my moon that I just die cut out with a circle. And for that, I think I'm just going to glue that directly on. So we'll just glue this on. And then for my 1 tree, I think I want my darker one in the, where do I want it in the front? Yeah, I think I want the darker one in the back. So this one I'm going to adhere directly onto that vellum. So again, since this is pretty little, I'm going to be using my liquid glue again. And I'll use my little tweezers just to pick this up. And then on this one, I'm actually going to pop this one up with some dimensionals. So we're going to change this one up. So I'm going to use some of the mini ones because this is pretty tiny. So we're just using the small ones. Oops, is that? Oh, it's got the backing on it still. Some of my dimensionals got stuck to each other, so I've been like, what a mess. The sheet, somehow the backing got off and they were all stuck together. I'm like, yikes. And we'll just give my base a little bit of support. And maybe do one more here. Okay, and then we'll just pop these off. Easier said than done sometimes. I wore my copper today. My arthritis in my hands was horrible yesterday. So I'm finding that if I do, why that's not coming up? If I do wear my copper, it does help. Oh, this one might not have been. Oh, what's going on? This backing doesn't want to come off. Oh, now the whole adhesive's gone. Okay, this is just a bad dimensional. Okay, take a new one. Take two. Okay, there we go. All right. I find these little dimensional backings like all over my house. I either truck them upstairs or the dogs do. Signs of a true stamper. Okay. And then because I wanted to wrap this ribbon around. So I'm going to wrap, before I put my tree on, because I forgot to do that last time. I'm going to take some of my ribbon, because I'm trying to use up ribbon, because I hardly use ribbon on cards anymore. But with that bookbinding fun fold that I did the other day for my video, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm using the ribbon, so we're going to keep trying to use it up. So this is actually one of our newer ribbons. This is the soft sea foam. It comes in the Splendid Day suite, so it's really, really fine, kind of sheer organza kind of ribbon. It's easy to tie, it's flat, it's lightweight, so it's not a bulky ribbon. Okay, and then I can kind of slide this over a little bit. So then my tree will then, we'll go up a little bit, I think. Come down. And then you can just trim the ribbon ends. I just cut them at an angle. If you're an expert at tying bows, feel free to tie a bow, but I just do a double knot, call it good. All right, so there's the first one. And I'm just going to leave my inside blank for now because I'm not quite sure what Christmas saying I want to put in there. So I will, because I've got this extra triangle now that I had cut off from here, I'm actually going to put that on the inside so then it coordinates then with the inside of my card. So let's go ahead and glue this in. Make sure I'm gluing the right side. Yeah, okay. Because I goofed up last night when I was making some of these. I put the glue on the wrong side. And then that'll just layer in there and just kind of completes the card and uses up your paper so you don't have scraps left over. All right, so there's the first one using your pattern paper as your diagonal fold. So now let's go and do another one using this cardstock triangle that we had cut off. So let me get some of this stuff out of the way. So I've got my pieces, and this one's going to be a gnome because I had all these gnomes left over. So, and we're going to make it a wobble. So we're just going to make this one a gnome. All right. So we've already done our triangle. So for this one, I only need one pattern paper that's going to be my back. So that's just a 4 by 5 1/4. Everything else is still the same. These are going to be your little mini card layers. These are the 2 3/4 by 3 3/4. And this one I already kind of dry embossed it just to save on time. This is a soft sea foam and then Whisper White for my inside. And then your mini card again was that 3 by 8, and then you're going to score it at 4. So I've already done that. And then this is going to go on my front of my mini card. So I'm just going to adhere that now. So this is the soft sea foam, and then this is my mini card is garden green, and then my card base is the evening evergreen. So lots of greens going on, but they all coordinate, which is kind of nice. And then this will be my inside. So we're just going to glue this on the inside of the mini card. And really, this mini card, you can adjust the size. So if you want it to be wider, you know, I wouldn't go too much longer just because you want it to kind of still be somewhat centered, but you could go a little bit wider if you wanted to. Totally up to you. So you can kind of play around with it on that. Okay, so there's our mini card. This is going to go on the inside, and I didn't score this yet, so let me real quick score this. I know I don't have the Stampin' Up paper trimmer. I have the really old one, and then you know, the blades don't work anymore, and I just never got around to buying a new one. So, and this one I've had for a while, and I kind of like it because it does my scoring and cutting just really quick. I know, shame on me, bad demonstrator, but I don't always use all Stampin' Up stuff because I know my customers sometimes they use a variety of things too. So anyway, that's going to be for the inside. So again, we need to cut this diagonal off. You're going to have another triangle left over again, but you can use it for another card. So again, we're going to put this, the top score line in your cutting blade or cutting area on your paper trimmer, and then line up the other one so that you're getting corner to corner. So again, another one left over. And then remember, I had trimmed this one. So when you trim it, you want to make sure you've got the straight edge up here. And then I just trimmed it to be at 5 inches. Otherwise, if you didn't trim it, it wouldn't layer onto your card. It would be like full size, okay? So this is one that I had already trimmed prior. We are going to, because I want to emboss this just so it pops a little bit. So I'm going to use the Woodland embossing folder. I love this. This is in the mini catalog. So I'm just going to put this in, and I just kind of pick some trees that I want to focus on, and then I'm going to run it through the embossing machine. And I'm going to do this off camera because my machine, I can't fit it all into camera. So I'll be right back. Okay. And remember, when you run it through the machine, you always want to have the spine going into the machine. Okay. Very important. All right, so now we've got that embossed. And I think to make these pop even a little bit more, I'm going to take, and I showed this the other day in my other fun fold video with the white craft pad. So take your white craft pad, and we're just going to swipe. You just kind of flip it around, and then that way it kind of pops out that embossed image a little bit better. And then make sure you clean off your surface area because you don't get that white ink everywhere. And then we'll just let this dry really quick. So let's finish doing our inside. So I'm going to this, so it's a little bit while that's drying. I want this to be my inside, so I'm just going to put adhesive on the back. This is going on the end, so this is just that 4 by 5 1/4. And if you wanted this to be cards or designer series paper, totally can, or I'm sorry, cardstock. Okay, and then let's add this to our front. So see how that white craft ink, it really kind of helps it pop against the monochromatic tone, you know, same color on same color. So evening evergreen on evening evergreen. Okay. All right, and then let's do our mini card. So again, I'm just going to open it up, and I'm just kind of positioning this centered. And then I like to just take my little low tack tape just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to add my glue on the back. And then I'm just going to close the card. And I just run my bone folder over it just to adhere it. This just comes off, and then you've got your joyful fold. All right, so we've got our little Nomi guy, and I need to switch out my pick tool, so I've got my actual pick part. Okay, so we're gonna do, and I wasn't going to do a saying on this because I wanted my gnome to be my focal point. So I just want to make sure I have his feet positioned where they need to be. So we're going to put his feet are going to be glued directly onto the card. And then our wobble, and these I just got off of Amazon a couple of years ago, and I still have a bunch of them left over, so I've just been trying to, I had forgotten I had them, so I've been using them up this year. All right, and then really sticky. That's going to go on the back of the gnome, so I just kind of position it between his beard and his hat. And then this backing comes off as well, so there's another sticker. And then now he will go directly onto the card front. So again, I used that Sweet Sorbet, I used that in color glimmer paper again. So this was the more at the top where it was the darker color. And then I did the little bit of the linen paper for his beard. Now how fun is that? Oh God, he's so cute. Okay, now I do have, and I think I want to add, I just got these. These are the solid faceted gems. So they're all kind of in the, some of the in colors. And then it looks like maybe like a melon mambo, kind of like a petal pink. Yeah, maybe a balmy blue, but I think this kind of looks like kind of the green. So maybe I'm going to add a little bit of these greens on here. So let's do, let's see. Maybe we'll just do a couple. And I like the gems that have the small and the large because I always like to have a little bit that. And then do we want to do maybe, I think maybe I'll just stick with a 2 for now. I'll just do 2. If I decide to add more, I can always add more. All right, so that is the Diagonal Joyful Fun Fold. And again, you can use your pattern paper for that triangle, or you can use your leftover triangle that you cut off to be your layering piece too. And like I said, as you're going through and making these, you are going to have lots of pieces left over. So you can use make additional cards as well. So again, it's another fun, easy fun fold that shows off your designer series paper. And thanks again for watching, and I look forward to stamping with you again soon. Thanks for the support. I'll stamp again with you soon. Bye-bye.